Being productive is a learned skill, and I know that firsthand. I'm not naturally a productive person. In fact, for the first 20 years of my life, I was extremely unproductive, and I think that this is the case for most people. An article in Inc. magazine suggested that in an 8-hour day, the average worker is only productive for 2 hours and 53 minutes. However, over the last few years, my productivity has easily doubled, and I was thinking about this the other day. I have a set of 6 rules that I live by that significantly increase the likelihood of having a productive day. And I came up with these rules by analysing, over the last few years, the biggest triggers of my procrastination, meaning the specific actions that trigger me from being in a productive state to a procrastination state. And that leads us on to rule number 1, the frictionless morning. In terms of productivity, the morning is by far the most important part of the day. If I have a productive morning, then I'll probably have a productive day. But if I have an unproductive morning and I waste it watching Netflix or just doing meaningless tasks, then it's likely the rest of my day will remain like that. So I plan the day the night before, so as soon as I wake up, I know exactly what it is that I need to do. My clothes are all laid out ready to go, my laptop and desk space is clean and tidy, so I'm ready to start working straight away. And since we're in lockdown here in Vietnam, I don't go to work in my normal office, so I just work at my home office here, which saves me 15-20 minutes in the morning because I don't have to commute. And I think it's really important to get the most important task of the day done first, as soon as possible. And I was reading a book called First Things First by Stephen Covey a few weeks ago, and he mentions in the book the urgency importance matrix, where there are 2 factors that determine how you should spend your time: importance and urgency. So he recommends that it's only the tasks that are both important and urgent that you should be working on first thing in the morning. And if you want to read First Things First, it's an incredible book. I really do recommend you read it. And this video's sponsor, Shortform, can help you with that. Shortform is a book summary app with thousands of non-fiction books in their library. It's an incredibly powerful method of consuming large amounts of information in a very time-efficient way. So for example, I will have read a book a few years ago, and instead of reading the whole book again, I'll read the book summary on Shortform instead, and that will refresh the key points in my mind. And it's really how I do most of my reading now. I like how I can go through a full book summary in just 10 or 15 minutes when I unwind before bed. And what I particularly like is that the book summaries include interactive exercises for each chapter, turning what would normally be passive learning and turn that into proactive learning, therefore kind of helping me learn and understand the key points on a deeper level. And this is a feature that other book summary apps just don't have. Shortform have non-fiction books covering productivity, motivation and lifestyle, and they drop new book guides every week. You can click on the link in the description below, where the next 100 visitors to my URL will gain free unlimited access for 5 days. Over the last year or so, I've realised the single biggest thing that distracts me from my work is my phone, which leads us on to the second rule. Rule number 2, restrict phone usage during work hours. So in the morning, I use my phone for 10 minutes after waking up to check social media, but I cap it at a maximum of 10 minutes. After that, I don't use my phone at all until about 12 noon when I take my first break or I have to leave the house. I've realised recently that I don't need to use my phone when I'm working. It causes more of a distraction and hinders my productivity more than anything else. I have an iPad that is far better for productivity and planning and just jotting down ideas, and I'm far less likely to get distracted and start procrastinating with my iPad. So usually my phone is out of sight when I'm working, either behind my laptop where I can't see it or in a completely different room. Most mornings I wake up and I feel pretty productive and ready to go, but some days I just feel tired, like really tired. And of course it will be a lot harder to get work done because, you know, if you have to force yourself to work when you really don't want to, that's when you're vulnerable to procrastination. And even if you do force yourself to work, you probably won't be producing good quality work. So usually if I'm feeling like this, I'll make a black coffee in the morning just to get that extra boost of energy. Now, I used to be a bit too reliant on coffee to keep my energy levels up, to the point where I was drinking like 4 or 5 coffees a day. So now I have a non-negotiable rule: a maximum of 4 coffees a week, just because I don't want my body to become reliant on caffeine, because the more coffee you drink, the less of an energy boost you'll get from each one, right? And I really think your mornings should be positive. You shouldn't have to be fighting tiredness and fatigue. You should be feeling positive and ready to go, and coffee is a really effective tool to help with that, providing you don't go overboard with it. And I don't bother with grinding my coffee beans and spending 20 minutes making a cup of coffee. I just go straight for the instant coffee, because Honestly, I can't tell much of a difference between the two. Surely I can't be the only one, right? Now, productivity goes up and down during the day, right? It's pretty natural. Usually my productivity will peak at about 11 in the morning, and then it will fall after lunch as my energy levels drop, but then it will spike back up again in the evening. And every now and then I'll have a week where I'm not as productive as the week before or a few weeks before. And so rule number 4, regularly analyze productivity and keep making small changes. So if I'm having an unproductive day, it's really important to me to understand why I'm having an unproductive day. Was it because I was on my phone and distracted from social media? Or was it because I had so many people messaging me or emailing me that day? And essentially that is where these 6 rules have come from, right? Because I've been analyzing over the last few years what exactly makes me procrastinate, and then setting up concrete steps to not allow those things to happen again. So for example, if I have my phone right next to me when I'm working, I will for sure procrastinate a lot more during the day, and that's why it's important for me to put my phone out of sight when I'm working. As I mentioned earlier in the video, sometimes you just don't feel like doing any work, but you can still be productive even when you're not feeling productive. Rule number 5, match tasks with energy levels. So in the morning, I have the most willpower and I have the most energy, so I get my most important and often most difficult tasks done as soon as I wake up. So one of those tasks would be writing a script for a course that I'm making over on Skillshare. It takes quite a lot of energy to write a good script, so it's often not a good idea doing this task at night time when I'm feeling tired. But on the other hand, at night time when I have less energy, I'll do other types of tasks that require less mental capacity and are sometimes a bit more interesting, such as going through specific business strategies or brainstorming ideas for future videos, that kind of thing. My 6th rule, and I think this is the most important rule of them all, is stop consuming content that makes you feel worse. Whether that's browsing your friend's news feed on Facebook or Instagram, or binge watching Netflix, or watching pointless videos on YouTube for hours on end. I've relatively recently, reduced my social media usage by a good, I'd say 80 or 90% over the last few months, and I feel so much better for it. I feel like there's a lot of negativity and pessimism and just people complaining in general on social media, and I don't think that does anyone any good. And my productivity has increased significantly as a result of not spending hours scrolling through Facebook and Instagram. There are other methods and strategies that I implement into my day to increase my overall productivity. I talk about them more in depth in a video I made called How I Make My 24 Hours Super Productive. You can click on the card on the screen to watch it. Alternatively, I made another video on my complete Notion setup to maximize productivity. Again, you can click on the card on the screen, and do check out this video's sponsor, Shortform. The first 100 visitors to my URL will gain free unlimited access for 5 days, link in the description below.